gold, jewels, sunken ships, hidden vaults. These words alone stir the imagination like sparks in dry grass. They ignite stories of adventurers braving jungles, deserts, and oceans in pursuit of treasure. They fill our minds with maps marked by X, with locked chests gleaming in candlelight, with secrets just beyond reach. But what is it about treasure that captures the human spirit so powerfully? Why do tales of lost riches endure for centuries, even when no proof is found? Why are we so fascinated not only by wealth, but by the mystery of wealth that has disappeared? This is where our journey begins, not with a single treasure, but with the very idea of treasure itself. To understand why history's lost treasures are so compelling, we must look not only at the objects themselves, but at what they mean to us. In every culture across history, treasure has always been more than shiny things. Gold coins were not just currency, they were symbols of kingdoms. Crowns and scepters, encrusted with gemstones, were not merely ornaments, they were physical embodiments of authority. Whoever held the treasure held the power. When we hear of a lost hoard, whether it's a chest of pirate gold or the regalia of fallen dynasties, we are not only thinking of wealth, but of control, dominance, and legacy. The treasure carries the aura of the rulers, warriors, and empires that once possessed it. To find it is to touch history, to seize power from the hands of time itself. There is something irresistible about absence. If a treasure is displayed in a museum, we can admire it, but the mystery is gone. If it is lost, buried, stolen, or swallowed by the sea, it transforms into something else entirely. The treasure becomes a story, a riddle, an invitation. Human beings are natural storytellers, and the idea of lost treasure fits perfectly into our oldest traditions. Just as we tell myths of gods hidden in mountains or spirits dwelling in rivers, so too do we tell of treasures hidden beneath the earth. The secrecy itself becomes part of the allure. Consider this. When we hear that a pirate buried his loot on an unknown island, our imagination rushes to fill in the blanks. What island? What dangers guard it? Is it cursed? Even without evidence, the mystery continues to expand, feeding our collective fascination. At its heart, every story of lost treasure is also a story of adventure. It promises challenge, danger, and the thrill of pursuit. The jungles of South America, the deserts of Arabia, the ice-bound coasts of Russia, the storm-tossed Caribbean, all become backdrops for treasure quests. For many, the treasure itself is less important than the journey to seek it. This is why even failed treasure hunts are retold with passion. Explorers who never found El Dorado, divers who never uncovered galleons, seekers who never cracked the Beale ciphers, all are remembered because their pursuit captured the essence of human daring. Adventure, after all, is another form of treasure. Beneath the surface, our obsession with treasure is rooted in deeper human psychology. Let us explore some of the forces that drive this fascination. Desire for wealth. Gold and jewels are universal symbols of value. They promise freedom, status, and security. Curiosity about the unknown. Lost treasures combine riches with mystery. We are not only greedy, but inquisitive. Hope against odds. Even when the treasure seems impossible to find, the dream persists. Hope itself becomes valuable. Immortality through discovery. To find a lost treasure is to write one's name in history. Seekers yearn not only for wealth, but for eternal remembrance. In essence, the allure of treasure lies at the intersection of greed, curiosity, and the quest for meaning. Another reason treasure stories endure is the blurred line between reality and imagination. Some treasures are very real, documented by historical records, the Amber Room, the Flor de la Mar, the Romanov jewels. Others are purely legendary, the Nibelung hoard, the seven cities of Cibola, perhaps even El Dorado itself. But to our minds, the line does not matter. A legendary treasure is just as captivating as a real one, because both stir the same emotions. We are fascinated not only by what is hidden, but also by what could be hidden. The treasure becomes a mirror of our imagination. Treasure stories are also moral tales. They are rarely neutral. The hunter of treasure must often face temptation, greed, betrayal, and danger. In myths, the hero who seeks treasure without wisdom is destroyed, while the hero who remains humble may find not only gold, but enlightenment. Think of Gollum in Tolkien's tale, consumed by his lust for a ring of power, or the conquistadors who died in jungles searching for golden cities that never existed, or the cursed pirates in folklore, whose stolen coins bring ruin instead of riches. Treasure teaches us that desire without restraint can be deadly. And yet, we keep searching. If land holds many hidden treasures, the ocean holds more still. Every century of seafaring has left behind sunken ships, their holds filled with silver, pearls, ivory, and jewels. The waves became vaults for human wealth, sealed by storms and hidden by shifting sands. This endless ocean of treasure still lies beneath us, waiting. Every year, new wrecks are discovered, some small, some vast, some carrying fortunes that rewrite history. The sea, in its endurance, is the world's greatest banker, guarding more wealth than all the banks of men combined. It is little wonder that divers, explorers, and dreamers continue to search the waters for what was lost. Treasure is not only about ancient hoards. Today, people still seek it in new forms. Some scour mountains for hidden Nazi gold. Others decode messages in old diaries. Metal detectors sweep beaches for lost rings. And in the digital world, new treasures appear. Cryptocurrency wallets with forgotten passwords. Electronic fortunes waiting like chests buried in invisible sand. Even now, the psychology is the same. We are still drawn to the promise of hidden wealth, still lured by the mystery of what has not yet been found. So why do these stories survive, generation after generation? Because they touch something timeless in us. They remind us that there is still wonder in the world, still secrets left to uncover, still challenges that demand courage and curiosity. A lost treasure is not only an object, it is a dream. And dreams endure as long as we do. This is why we begin our journey here, with the golden lure itself. For the chapters that follow will take us deeper into history, myth, and reality. We will walk the sands of Egypt, explore the ruins of lost civilizations, sail with Spanish galleons, and unravel ciphers that hint at unimaginable wealth. Each treasure we encounter will carry its own story, its own blend of fact and fantasy, greed and wonder. But all are united by this, the enduring human hunger for what is lost, hidden, or forgotten. The golden lure never fades. It glimmers in our minds, just beyond reach, always waiting. And so we set forth into the tales of history's most mysterious lost treasures, Egypt. The very name summons images of golden masks, towering pyramids, and desert sands shimmering in the heat. Few civilizations in human history have been as obsessed with death, eternity, and treasure as the ancient Egyptians. Their kings, the mighty pharaohs, were buried not with simple markers, but with tombs carved into rock and filled with unimaginable wealth. We know this story best through the dazzling discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922, when Howard Carter uncovered treasures so extraordinary that they seemed to belong to another world. A golden mask, statues, jewelry, chariots, weapons, and more, all meant to accompany a boy king into eternity. And yet, Tutankhamun was a minor pharaoh. If his tomb held such riches, what might the lost or undiscovered tombs of greater kings still contain? This chapter takes us into the Valley of the Kings, beneath the shadow of pyramids, and into the whispers of hidden chambers. The treasures of Egypt are not merely history, they are mysteries still waiting to be uncovered. To understand why Egyptian tombs are filled with treasure, we must understand their beliefs. The Egyptians saw death not as an end, but as a journey. The pharaoh, as both king and god, was expected to live forever in the afterlife. But eternity was not a place one entered empty-handed. The dead would need food, furniture, weapons, companions, and above all, gold. Gold was no mere metal in Egypt. It was the flesh of the gods, indestructible, incorruptible, eternal. To bury a king without gold would have been unthinkable. Thus, whole treasuries were sealed into tombs, chariots plated in gold, thrones inlaid with jewels, amulets crafted to guide the soul, and statues to serve the king in the next life. But the tombs were not only for the pharaohs. Their queens, priests, and nobles also received elaborate burials. Together, they filled Egypt with hidden chambers of treasure, many of which have never been found. Nestled in the cliffs near Luxor, the Valley of the Kings is one of the most extraordinary burial grounds on Earth. Between the 16th and 11th centuries BCE, more than 60 tombs were carved here for pharaohs and nobles of the New Kingdom. Some tombs stretch for hundreds of feet, filled with painted chambers and corridors, their walls covered with spells from the Book of the Dead. Many were looted in antiquity, their treasures stolen. Yet even after centuries of excavation, mysteries remain. Archaeologists still believe there are undiscovered tombs beneath the valley's sand and stone, perhaps holding pharaohs whose resting places were never found. One of the greatest questions still unanswered: the tomb of Queen Nefertiti, one of Egypt's most famous rulers. In recent years, radar scans of Tutankhamun's tomb suggested the possibility of hidden chambers beyond the walls, chambers that might belong to Nefertiti herself. If true, the discovery would rival Tutankhamun's in significance. Before the Valley of the Kings, Egypt's greatest kings were buried in pyramids. The Great Pyramid of Giza, built for Pharaoh Khufu around 2500 BCE, remains one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. It is a marvel of engineering, with passages, chambers, and shafts aligned with astonishing precision. Yet here is the mystery. The pyramid contains no confirmed burial treasures. The king's chamber holds a massive granite sarcophagus, but it is empty. Was Khufu buried there, only to be looted? Or is there still a hidden chamber, undiscovered after millennia? Modern technology has given new hope. In 2017, a team using cosmic ray imaging announced the discovery of a vast hidden void inside the Great Pyramid, a space at least 30 meters long. Its purpose remains unknown. Could it conceal a lost treasury, sealed since the time of the pharaohs? The sands of Egypt still conceal royal tombs. Archaeologists suspect that many great rulers remain undiscovered. Among them, Pharaoh Ramses VIII. Unlike most of his dynasty, his tomb has never been located in the Valley of the Kings. Where is his final resting place? Cleopatra and Mark Antony. Though later in Egyptian history, their burial has never been confirmed. Legends say they were entombed together near Alexandria, but no definitive evidence has been found. Dynasties of Abydos and Saqqara, early rulers who built step pyramids and temples, may still lie hidden beneath the desert. Each lost tomb is a capsule of history, potentially filled with treasures that could rewrite our understanding of Egypt. Of course, no discussion of Egyptian treasure is complete without the infamous curse. When Tutankhamun's tomb was opened, newspapers spread tales that those who disturbed the pharaoh's rest would die. Indeed, several members of Howard Carter's team did pass away under unusual circumstances, though Carter himself lived many years afterward. Whether coincidence or not, the idea of a curse has haunted every treasure hunter since. To seek a pharaoh's tomb is not only to dig into stone, but to trespass against eternity. The mystery, the wealth, and the danger combine into a legend that has endured for more than a century. Sadly, much of Egypt's treasure is gone forever. Tomb robbers were as old as the tombs themselves. Priests in antiquity often reopened royal tombs to rewrap and rehide mummies, protecting what little remained. Even today, looting continues in secret, robbing the world of priceless heritage. Yet the mystery endures precisely because so much was lost. Every time archaeologists strike the earth with their trowels, they know they may uncover something untouched, something that escaped the hands of thieves for thousands of years. Why does Egypt capture the imagination more than any other civilization? Perhaps it is the combination of grandeur and mystery. The pyramids and temples stand as colossal monuments, their hieroglyphs whispering secrets we are still translating. The treasures we have found are dazzling, but incomplete. The very gaps in the story invite us to dream of more. Egypt also bridges the worlds of myth and history. Its treasures are real. Tutankhamun's golden mask is on display for all to see, yet its stories are legendary, filled with curses, hidden chambers, and eternal life. It is both fact and fantasy, history and myth, fused into one. When we think of lost treasure, we often imagine gold coins or jeweled crowns. But Egyptian treasures were something more. They were portals to eternity. Every amulet, every statue, every painted wall was designed to guide a soul beyond death. In this way, the tombs are not only treasures for the living, but also maps of the afterlife. To uncover them is to step into the minds of people who lived thousands of years ago and yet dreamed, as we do, of immortality. Egypt's tombs remind us that treasure is not only about wealth, but about meaning. The gold was not hoarded for greed, but offered for eternity. The chambers were not vaults of plunder, but sanctuaries of belief. And yet, so many remain hidden. Somewhere under the sand, beneath collapsed cliffs, or deep in the heart of pyramids, treasures still wait. The lost pharaohs rest, perhaps undisturbed, their legacies sealed away by time. The question is not whether more treasures exist. The question is when, and by whom, they will be found. Among the greatest lost treasures in history, none spark such sorrow and awe as the Library of Alexandria. Unlike gold hoards, jeweled crowns, or buried ships, this treasure was not made of glittering metals or stones. It was made of words, knowledge, the thoughts of centuries gathered in one place, only to be swallowed by flame. When people dream of vanished wonders, they often speak of this library, not because it held riches of wealth, but because it may have held the riches of human progress. If the library had survived, some historians argue, we might have leapt forward 1,000 years in science, philosophy, and art. But what truly happened to it? Was it burned once, or many times? Did it really hold millions of scrolls? And most mysteriously, might some fragments still survive, hidden in forgotten archives? This chapter takes you through the story of the Library of Alexandria, its rise, its destruction, and its enduring legend. To understand the library, we must first understand the city itself. Alexandria was founded by Alexander the Great in 331 BCE. After his death, his general Ptolemy the Soter took control of Egypt and turned Alexandria into his capital. Ptolemy and his successors wanted their city to be the intellectual heart of the world. They built the Mausoleum, a great temple of the Muses, the Greek goddesses of art and learning. Attached to it was the library, a place designed to gather all human knowledge. Legend says the rulers demanded that every ship docking in Alexandria surrender its books. Scribes would copy them, and the originals were kept in the library. Over decades, the collection grew into hundreds of thousands of scrolls, perhaps even close to 1 million. They contained works in Greek, Egyptian, Babylonian, Indian, and other languages, covering mathematics, medicine, astronomy, geography, literature, and philosophy. Imagine it, a place where the wisdom of the known world was gathered under one roof. It was humanity's first attempt at a universal archive. Because the library was destroyed, we cannot know exactly what it held. But scholars dream of what may have been lost: mathematics and engineering. The Greeks already knew geometry, but what if there were works on mechanics or devices lost to time? Some claim designs for steam engines, or even crude computers may have existed. Medicine. Ancient healers in India, Egypt, and Greece had advanced knowledge of herbs and surgery. Scrolls may have contained cures that would have saved countless lives. Geography. Eratosthenes, working in Alexandria, correctly calculated the Earth's circumference. Could there have been even earlier maps of lands we rediscovered only centuries later? Philosophy and literature. Works of great thinkers, lost plays of Sophocles, poems from forgotten cultures. A whole world of human imagination gone. The tragedy of the library is not simply that we lost books, it is that we lost possibilities. The destruction of the library is shrouded in mystery. Ancient sources disagree, and some may have exaggerated. The most famous story comes from Julius Caesar's Alexandrian War in 48 BCE. When Caesar became trapped in the city, he ordered ships in the harbour set on fire. The flames spread and may have reached the docks and warehouses that stored part of the library's collection. Ancient writers say 40,000 scrolls were destroyed. Whether this was the main library or only a branch is debated. If true, this was not the final end, but the first great wound. 2 centuries later, around 270 CE, Emperor Aurelian fought to retake Alexandria from Queen Zenobia of Palmyra. In the struggle, parts of the city were destroyed, including the district where the library may have stood. Another wave of destruction, another layer of loss. By the late Roman Empire, pagan temples were suppressed. In 391 CE, the Emperor Theodosius ordered the destruction of pagan shrines. In Alexandria, this included the Serapeum, which housed part of the library's collection. Christian zealots stormed the temple, tearing down statues and likely burning scrolls. It was not a single bonfire that destroyed the library, but centuries of neglect, war, and intolerance. A later story, probably a legend, says that when the Arabs conquered Alexandria in 642 CE, Caliph Omar ordered the last books burned, declaring, "If they agree with the Quran, they are unnecessary. If they disagree, they are dangerous." Most historians doubt this tale as it first appeared centuries after the event. Still, it adds to the library's legend, a symbol of how fragile knowledge can be in the hands of rulers. Some scholars argue the library may not have been as vast as the myths claim. Perhaps it held not millions, but only tens of thousands of scrolls. Others note that scrolls often contained just a small part of a larger work, so 1,000,000 scrolls might not mean 1,000,000 unique books. Yet even if its size has been exaggerated, the library's influence cannot be denied. It was the first attempt to preserve all knowledge, not just the heritage of one people. Was everything lost? Not entirely. Some works connected to the library's scholars have survived through other sources. Euclid's Elements, the foundation of geometry, studied even today. Archimedes' works. Though many were lost, copies that survived show astonishing brilliance. Ptolemy's Almagest, a comprehensive study of astronomy, shaping science for centuries. These remind us that while the library's main body was destroyed, some sparks of its flame carried forward. Why does the Library of Alexandria remain such a powerful symbol? Because it represents potential. Gold and jewels can be replaced, but knowledge is unique. Once lost, it cannot be rebuilt without rediscovery. To imagine cures for diseases, maps of unknown lands, or machines centuries ahead of their time, burned into ash. It awakens both grief and wonder. It also reminds us of the fragility of civilization. What we build can vanish. What we learn can be forgotten. The library is a mirror to our own time. If the servers that hold our digital world were destroyed, what treasures of knowledge might future generations say we lost? The Library of Alexandria may be gone, but its legacy lives in our pursuit of universal knowledge. Modern projects, from the Internet Archive to global digital libraries, are built with one lesson in mind: do not let knowledge be lost again. And yet, part of the library's power lies in its mystery. If we knew exactly what was lost, the sorrow might be sharper, but the wonder would fade. Instead, we are left with questions that inspire us to imagine. What if? The Library of Alexandria was not treasure in the usual sense. It did not glitter or shine. It could not be weighed or worn. And yet, it was perhaps the greatest treasure of all, the collective wisdom of humanity. Its destruction was not a single moment, but a series of blows across centuries. Fires, wars, fanaticism, and neglect all played a role. And so, the library remains not only a lost wonder, but a lesson. It teaches us that knowledge is fragile, that it must be guarded, shared, and renewed. And it leaves us with the haunting thought, if even one shelf had survived, how different might our world be today? Among all tales of lost treasures, few glow brighter with illusion and desperation than the legends of Cibola, the seven cities of gold. This story is not of a single chest buried beneath the earth, nor a shipwreck glittering with coins, but of entire cities shimmering with wealth, waiting for those bold enough to find them. It is a tale born of rumor, spread by hope, and fueled by greed. For in the age of exploration, when Europe's eyes turned westward toward the Americas, the thirst for gold was unquenchable. Men crossed oceans and deserts, not only to conquer but to dream. And among their greatest dreams was Cibola. But was it ever real? Or was it a mirage, conjured by misunderstanding and myth? The story of Cibola begins in the early 1500s, as Spanish explorers pushed deeper into the Americas. After Hernán Cortés conquered the Aztec Empire in 1521, rumors swirled that other great empires lay hidden beyond the horizon, kingdoms even richer than Mexico. One story told of 7 bishops who, fleeing Muslim invaders in Iberia centuries earlier, had sailed westward and founded 7 golden cities in a mysterious new land. Over time, this medieval Iberian legend merged with reports from indigenous peoples of wealthy settlements far to the north. The Spanish, already intoxicated by the gold of the Aztecs and Incas, were ready to believe. Greed and faith mingled, and the legend of the 7 cities of Cibola was born. One of the earliest sparks for Cibola came from the journey of Alvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca, a Spanish nobleman. Shipwrecked off the coast of present-day Texas in 1528, he wandered for 8 years across the American Southwest before reaching Mexico. Cabeza de Vaca described meeting native peoples who spoke of distant wealthy towns. His accounts, though vague, were seized upon by Spanish officials hungry for conquest. By the 1530s, whispers of golden cities to the north grew louder. In 1539, a Franciscan friar named Marcos de Niza was sent northward to scout these rumored lands. Guided by an enslaved African named Estevanico, Marcos claimed to have glimpsed a grand city from afar, a place with houses as large as those in Seville, glittering in the sun. He dared not enter, for Estevanico was killed by local Zuni people. But Marcos returned to Mexico with reports that filled the Spanish with feverish excitement. He declared that the 7 cities were real, and that they lay waiting for conquest. Whether Marcos truly saw a city, or mistook a Zuni pueblo for a golden empire, remains debated. But his words lit a fire that would lead to one of the greatest expeditions in North American history. In 1540, Francisco Vázquez de Coronado, governor of New Galicia, set out with hundreds of soldiers, priests, and native allies to claim Cibola for Spain. They marched across deserts and rivers, through what is now Mexico, Arizona, and New Mexico. At last, Coronado reached one of the fabled cities. And what did he find? A Zuni pueblo, stone and adobe houses, rising from the desert floor. Impressive, yes, but not golden, not jeweled, not shimmering with wealth. Coronado was bitterly disappointed. Yet he did not give up. The expedition pressed further, chasing rumors of richer lands. The mythical Quivira, on the Great Plains, said to hold treasures beyond imagination. Again, they found no golden city, only the villages of the Wichita people in present-day Kansas. After years of hardship, the expedition returned in failure. Spain had found no Cibola, no glittering empire, only a vast continent filled with ordinary people, living ordinary lives. Even after Coronado's failure, the legend of Cibola did not vanish. Other expeditions continued to chase it, spurred by the human desire to believe in hidden wealth. Why? Because myths of treasure are powerful. They are not about fact, but about hope. every explorer imagined that perhaps the next horizon would reveal the Golden City. And in truth, many indigenous peoples of the Southwest did live in impressive settlements, pueblos of stone, irrigated fields, and cultures rich with art and tradition. To European eyes, these could easily be exaggerated into legends of wealth. Cibola was never about gold alone. It was about the lure of the unknown. For the Spanish, the seven cities became a canvas for their own desires, to find another Mexico, another Peru, another empire to conquer and plunder. For the storytellers of Europe, it was a romantic myth of distant wonders. Even today, the idea of a lost golden city in the desert captures our imagination. It is the same instinct that drives stories of Atlantis, El Dorado, and Shangri-La. Cibola represents not only treasure, but the eternal human longing for discovery. So, what did explorers really see? Modern historians believe Marcos Denise's Golden City was likely a Zuni pueblo, its adobe walls glowing in the sun. Coronado's Quivira was the Wichita settlement on the Kansas plains. Neither was poor, but neither matched the Spanish dreams of golden streets. The myth arose from misunderstanding, cultural projection, and the hunger for wealth. Yet archaeology confirms that the Southwest did hold treasures, though of a different kind. Ancient cliff dwellings at Mesa Verde, massive pueblos at Chaco Canyon, and rich cultural traditions reveal civilizations of great complexity. Their treasure was not gold, but resilience, artistry, and knowledge of the land. Though no golden cities were ever found, the quest for Cibola shaped history. Coronado's expedition marked one of the first major European incursions into the American Southwest. It opened pathways that would later bring colonization, missions, and conflict. For the native peoples, the legend of Cibola brought tragedy. Their villages were attacked, their food seized, their lives disrupted, all because of a dream that never existed. Thus, Cibola is both a story of wonder and of warning, a reminder that the pursuit of treasure often blinds us to the value of what is already before us. The seven cities of Cibola never existed. No golden streets, no jeweled temples. And yet, in a way, they were real, because they lived in the minds of those who sought them. Cibola reminds us that sometimes the greatest treasures are illusions. They inspire journeys, shape history, and stir the imagination, even if they can never be touched. In the end, the Spanish never found their golden empire in the deserts of the Southwest, but they left behind a story that still glitters, not with real gold, but with the eternal human hunger for more. Few lost treasures inspire such fascination as the Amber Room. Unlike a chest of coins or a shipwreck of silver, the Amber Room was no mere collection of valuables. It was a masterpiece, an entire chamber of glowing golden resin, often called the eighth wonder of the world. It dazzled kings, impressed visiting dignitaries, and became a symbol of luxury and power. Yet, in the chaos of World War II, it vanished. Whether destroyed in flames or hidden away in secret vaults, its fate remains one of history's greatest mysteries. This is the story of how a room of amber became the pride of empires, the prize of war, and one of the most enduring lost treasures of modern times. The Amber Room was born in the early 18th century in the Kingdom of Prussia. Crafted by German artisans Andreas Schlüter and Gottfried Wolfram, it was designed for the Charlottenburg Palace in Berlin. The room was made almost entirely of amber panels, backed with gold leaf and mirrors, glowing with a warm, honey-like light. Amber, the fossilized resin of ancient trees, had long been prized for its beauty, but here, it was used on a scale never before imagined. The panels were carved, polished, and inlaid with precious stones, creating walls that seemed to shine with inner fire. But fate would soon carry the Amber Room beyond Prussia. In 1716, King Frederick William I of Prussia gifted it to Tsar Peter the Great of Russia. The gesture sealed an alliance against Sweden and brought the treasure to its new home, Russia. When the Amber Room arrived in St. Petersburg, it caused a sensation. Tsar Peter, who loved European art and culture, installed it in the Catherine Palace at Tsarskoye Selo. Over the years, it was expanded and redesigned, reaching its most splendid form under Empress Elizabeth, Peter's daughter. Italian craftsman Bartolomeo Rastrelli added gilded carvings, mosaics, and panels, transforming the chamber into a glowing jewel box of amber and light. Visitors were stunned. The room's panels reflected candles in endless golden hues, bathing the chamber in warmth. It was said to make those who entered feel as if they stood inside a block of living sunlight. Soon, the amber room became famous across Europe. Diplomats, nobles, and scholars came to marvel at it, and it became a symbol of Russia's wealth and cultural ambition. Stories about the amber room only added to its aura. Some said it held healing powers, that standing within it could improve health. Others whispered it was enchanted, infused with the energy of ancient forests trapped in amber. In truth, its magic was not supernatural, but artistic, a space unlike anything else on Earth. By the 20th century, the amber room was estimated to be worth more than $150 million in today's money. But its real value was symbolic. It was the pride of Russia, a national treasure. When Nazi Germany invaded the Soviet Union in 1941, the amber room became a target. The Germans considered it not only a masterpiece, but also a cultural treasure that had once belonged to Prussia. To them, reclaiming it was a matter of pride. As the German army advanced on Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, Soviet curators tried to protect the amber room, but the panels were too fragile to move. In desperation, they covered the room with wallpaper, hoping to disguise it. It did not work. German soldiers discovered the treasure, dismantled it within days, and shipped it to Königsberg, now Kaliningrad, a city in East Prussia. There, the amber room was reassembled and put on display in the Königsberg Castle Museum. For a few brief years, the amber room gleamed again, but under the shadow of war. As the war turned against Germany, the amber room's fate grew uncertain. In 1944, Allied bombings struck Königsberg, damaging parts of the city. Some reports claim the amber room was destroyed in the fire. Others insist it was packed into crates and hidden, either in mines, castles, or buried deep underground. When Soviet troops captured Königsberg in 1945, the amber room was gone. The museum was in ruins, but no trace of the panels was found. What happened in those final months remains a mystery. Was it consumed by flames? Was it spirited away by fleeing Germans? Or does it still lie, sealed in a forgotten bunker, waiting for rediscovery? Since the war, countless expeditions have tried to solve the mystery of the amber room. Treasure hunters, historians, and governments have scoured archives, interviewed witnesses, and explored ruins. Some leads pointed to underground mines in Germany and Poland. Others suggested it was loaded onto a ship, the Wilhelm Gustloff, which sank in the Baltic Sea. A few claimed it was hidden in a castle vault, waiting for someone with the right key. Over the decades, fragments of the amber room have surfaced. In 1997, one of its missing panels appeared in Germany, in the possession of a family whose relative had been a soldier in Königsberg. This fueled hope that more pieces might still exist. Yet the complete chamber has never been found. In the late 20th century, Russia began the painstaking task of recreating the amber room. Using old photographs, surviving fragments, and traditional amber working techniques, artisans worked for decades to restore the lost masterpiece. In 2003, the new amber room was unveiled at the Catherine Palace, marking the 300th anniversary of St. Petersburg. Visitors can once again step into a chamber glowing with amber and gold, experiencing a glimpse of what was lost. Yet for many, the replica is only a shadow. The mystery of the original still lingers, haunting the imagination. Why does the amber room captivate us so deeply? Because it embodies both beauty and tragedy. It was not just wealth, it was art, history, and human genius, stolen and lost in the madness of war. Its disappearance feels like a wound in culture, a reminder of what conflict can erase. It also feeds the eternal human hope that somewhere, hidden in a bunker or buried in the earth, The real amber room still waits. Scholars and treasure hunters continue to debate. Destroyed in 1944, some argue it burned when Königsberg Castle was bombed. Amber is highly flammable, and a fire could have reduced it to ash. Hidden in mines, many believe it was packed into crates and stored in salt mines or tunnels, like other Nazi loot. Searches in Poland and Germany continue, lost at sea. If loaded onto a ship, it may lie beneath the Baltic, preserved but unreachable. Secret Soviet seizure. A fringe theory suggests the Soviets themselves recovered it and concealed the truth, though no proof exists. Each theory keeps the mystery alive. The Amber Room was once called the eighth wonder of the world, a room not built of stone or wood, but of light and resin, a chamber where time itself seemed to glow. Today, it lives only in memory and replica, its original panels scattered or gone. Yet perhaps this is why its story endures. The Amber Room reminds us of both the heights of human creativity and the depths of human destruction. It shines as a symbol of beauty, greed, war, and mystery, forever unfinished. Maybe one day, in a forgotten vault or a sunken ship, the original panels will be found. Until then, the Amber Room remains one of history's greatest lost treasures, a room of light, vanished into shadow. Some lost treasures are material: gold, jewels, coins. Others are more mysterious: relics of faith, sacred artifacts whispered to hold power beyond wealth. Few stories combine the two as powerfully as the legends of the Knights Templar hoard, a supposed cache of relics and riches hidden by one of the most feared and revered orders of the Middle Ages. Did the Templars, warrior monks of Christendom, really guard the Holy Grail, the Ark of the Covenant, or scrolls that could rewrite history? Or are the tales merely myths, born of secrecy and destruction? The truth, as always, lies somewhere between fact and legend. This chapter journeys into the world of the Templars, their rise, their mysterious fall, and the treasure that may have vanished with them. The poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, better known as the Knights Templar, were founded in 1119. Their mission, to protect Christian pilgrims travelling to the Holy Land after the First Crusade. At first, they were only 9 knights, led by Hugues de Payan. They took vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, living like monks, but fighting like soldiers. Their headquarters was established on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, in the former Al-Aqsa Mosque, thought at the time to be the site of Solomon's temple. It was here that whispers of secrets began. Some claimed the Templars excavated beneath the Temple Mount, uncovering ancient relics of the biblical world. Whether true or not, the order grew powerful. Endorsed by the Pope, the Templars became the shock troops of the Crusades and the bankers of medieval Europe. Kings entrusted them with money, nobles donated land, and pilgrims deposited wealth for safe passage. Within a century, they had become one of the richest and most influential organizations in Christendom. The Templars' wealth was staggering. They owned farms, vineyards, mills, castles, and entire towns. They created a financial network across Europe, inventing systems of credit that foreshadowed modern banking. A pilgrim could leave gold in Paris and withdraw its value in Jerusalem. Yet their treasure was not only financial. Chronicles mention relics under their care, pieces of the true cross, bones of saints, and other holy objects. Some even suggested they possessed the Holy Grail itself, the cup of Christ. Others whispered of the Ark of the Covenant, hidden for safekeeping. These stories were fueled by secrecy. The Templars answered only to the Pope, lived under strict discipline, and guarded their rituals fiercely. Outsiders imagined strange rites and hidden knowledge. To their enemies, mystery became accusation. By the 14th century, the Crusades had failed. The Holy Land was lost. The Templars, though still wealthy, had lost their purpose. King Philip IV of France, deeply in debt to the order, saw an opportunity. In 1307, he ordered the mass arrest of the Templars in France. The charges: heresy, idolatry, blasphemy. Under torture, some confessed to bizarre rituals, spitting on the cross, worshipping a mysterious head, denying Christ. Historians now view these confessions as forced, yet at the time, they fueled fear and outrage. The Pope, under Philip's pressure, dissolved the order in 1312. Many Templars were executed, including the Grand Master, Jacques de Molay, who was burned at the stake in 1314. According to legend, he cursed both the king and the Pope, who died soon after. But amid the destruction, one question remained. What happened to the Templar treasure? When Philip's men raided the Paris temple, they expected vast wealth. They found little. Records suggest that a treasure convoy had already left the city before the arrests. What happened to it? Some accounts say it was loaded onto wagons and disappeared into the night. Others claim it was taken by sea, perhaps to England or Scotland. A persistent legend insists it was hidden in La Rochelle, where Templar ships set sail and vanished into the Atlantic. Wherever it went, the treasure was never recovered. One enduring story ties the Templar treasure to Scotland. After the order's suppression, some knights are said to have fled there, protected by sympathetic nobles. At the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314, Scottish forces led by Robert the Bruce defeated the English. According to legend, mysterious armoured horsemen appeared on the field, survivors of the Templars. Some believe these knights brought relics with them, perhaps even the Grail. The idea links the Templars to the later legends of the Holy Grail and to the Freemasons, whose symbolism echoes Templar lore. Rosslyn Chapel, built in the 15th century near Edinburgh, has long been connected to these stories. Its intricate carvings depict biblical scenes, strange symbols, and even plants from the New World before Columbus. To some, Rosslyn hides the Grail or the Ark beneath its crypt. Another strand of the legend suggests the Templars found the Ark of the Covenant beneath the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. The Ark, said to contain the tablets of the Ten Commandments, had been missing for centuries. Could the Templars have uncovered it? Archaeological proof is lacking, but the idea persists. If true, it would explain the aura of power and secrecy around the order. Some even suggest the Ark was smuggled to Ethiopia, where traditions hold it still rests in Axum, guarded by monks. Not all scholars believe the Templar treasure was gold or relics. Some argue it was knowledge, scrolls, texts, and documents hidden beneath the Temple Mount. Perhaps ancient records of Judaism, early Christianity, or even lost wisdom from before biblical times. If the Templars held such knowledge, it would have been more dangerous than gold. It could challenge church authority, making them enemies of kings and popes alike. This theory casts the Templar treasure not as physical wealth, but as hidden truths. Centuries after the Templars' fall, a new secret society arose, the Freemasons. Many symbols and rituals of the Masons resemble those attributed to the Templars. Some believe the Masons inherited the Templars' legacy, carrying forward their secrets. The idea is woven into conspiracy theories, suggesting that the Templar hoard, or at least their knowledge, lives on, encoded in Masonic tradition. Though historians debate the connection, the myth continues to fascinate. In recent centuries, countless treasure hunters have sought the Templar hoard. In France, stories place it at Gisors Castle, where knights once held lands. Excavations have found tunnels, but no treasure. In Portugal, the Convent of Christ at Tamar, a Templar stronghold, has inspired rumours of hidden vaults. In Nova Scotia, Canada, the Oak Island mystery has been linked to the Templars, with theories that they buried relics there long before Columbus. Despite endless searching, no hoard has been found. The legend lives on, feeding books, films, and theories. So, did the Templars really guard a great treasure? Or was it all invention, born from fear and secrecy? Historically, the Order's wealth was real, but much of it was land, income, and influence, not piles of gold. Yet the absence of treasure when Philip struck suggests something was hidden. Perhaps the Templars did spirit away riches, perhaps they did protect relics, or perhaps the greatest treasure they left was the myth itself, a symbol of mystery, faith, and resistance to tyranny. The Knights Templar rose from humble beginnings to become one of the most powerful orders in history. Their fall was swift, brutal, and surrounded by accusations. Out of this storm emerged a legend that somewhere, hidden by warrior monks, lies a hoard of treasures, relics, riches, or truths that could change history. The truth may never be known, but that uncertainty is the power of the tale. Like the Amber Room, the Templar treasure represents not just lost wealth, but the haunting possibility of discovery. Perhaps in a forgotten vault, a crumbling chapel, or beneath the earth, something still waits. Until then, the Templar hoard remains one of history's greatest mysteries, a treasure as much of imagination as of gold. Among all the treasures humanity has lost, rooms of amber, ships of gold, hoards of jewels, none stirs the imagination quite like a library. Gold glitters, relics inspire devotion, but knowledge has the power to shape civilizations. And no lost treasure of knowledge is more famous than the Library of Alexandria. The library was not merely a collection of scrolls. It was a dream, a vision of gathering all the world's wisdom in one place, a beacon of learning in an age of empires. Its destruction remains one of the great tragedies of history. For in its flames, we may have lost works of genius, forgotten histories, and even sciences far ahead of their time. This is the story of how a library was born to contain the wisdom of the ancient world, how it dazzled those who entered, and how, through war, neglect, and fire, it vanished, leaving us to wonder what might have been. The tale begins in Egypt during the reign of the Ptolemies, the Greek rulers who followed Alexander the Great. Alexandria, the city Alexander founded in 331 BCE, had become a bustling port, a crossroads of trade and culture. Ptolemy the Ramsota, one of Alexander's generals and the first ruler of the Ptolemaic dynasty, is often credited with the idea of the library. His goal, to gather every text, every story, every piece of knowledge in the known world. His successors, especially Ptolemy II Philadelphus, made the dream real. The Library of Alexandria was built within the Mausoleum, a temple to the Muses, the goddesses of the arts and sciences. It was more than a library. It was a research institute where scholars studied astronomy, medicine, mathematics, history, and literature. Legend says the library grew to contain hundreds of thousands of scrolls. Some estimates place its collection at 400,000 to 700,000 works. In a world where every book had to be copied by hand, this was staggering. The Ptolemies were relentless in their quest for texts. Ships docking at Alexandria were searched, and any books on board were taken to the library, copied, and only the duplicates returned. The originals were kept. The rulers sent agents across Greece, Asia, and beyond to buy or seize manuscripts. Works of Homer, plays of Sophocles, histories from Persia, records from India, anything written was sought. In time, the library may have held texts from every corner of the ancient Mediterranean world, and perhaps even beyond. Some say it housed Babylonian astronomy, Egyptian medical papyri, Hindu mathematics, Buddhist scriptures, and lost plays of Greek dramatists. Whether myth or truth, the library represented a dream of universal knowledge, a dream rarely equaled since. The library was not a silent hall of books, but a bustling centre of research. Scholars lived and worked there, supported by royal patronage. Among them was Euclid, the mathematician whose elements became the foundation of geometry. Eratosthenes, another Alexandrian scholar, calculated the circumference of the Earth with surprising accuracy, using shadows and simple math. Hero of Alexandria described machines powered by steam pressure, centuries before the Industrial Revolution. Doctors dissected bodies to study anatomy. Astronomers charted the stars. Linguists compared texts to study language. The scholars of Alexandria weren't just preserving knowledge, they were pushing it forward. It is no exaggeration to say that the library represented humanity at its intellectual peak for the ancient world. The true tragedy of Alexandria lies in what we will never know. Ancient sources tell us of lost works, Aristotle's dialogues, which may have contained his most advanced thought. The epic poems of early Greek poets, now known only by fragments. Histories of nations, Babylon, Egypt, Persia, that might have preserved details, now vanished. Mathematical and scientific treatises that could have advanced human progress centuries earlier. Imagine if theories of gravity, heliocentrism, or electricity had been discovered, written, and lost. Humanity might have reached the Renaissance 1,000 years early. Whether or not such knowledge truly existed, the possibility fuels the legend. The library's end is one of history's great debates. Unlike the Amber Room or Templar hoard, which vanished in a single moment, the library seems to have suffered several blows over centuries. 48 BCE, Julius Caesar's fire. During Caesar's civil war in Egypt, he set fire to ships in Alexandria's harbour. The flames spread to parts of the city. Ancient writers say warehouses of scrolls were destroyed. Was this the first death of the library? 3rd century CE, Emperor Aurelian's War. Fighting in Alexandria may have damaged or destroyed more of the collection. 391 CE, the Serapeum. The library's daughter collection at the Serapeum Temple was destroyed during Christian purges of pagan temples. 642 CE, the Arab conquest. Later tradition claims that Caliph Umar ordered the burning of the remaining scrolls, saying, "If they agree with the Quran, they are redundant. If they disagree, they are heresy." Modern historians debate whether this event happened at all. Thus, the library may not have been destroyed in one blaze, but gradually over centuries, neglect, war, and changing rulers reducing its glory to ash. Some scholars argue that the library's size has been exaggerated. Perhaps it never contained hundreds of thousands of scrolls. Perhaps its destruction, while tragic, was not quite the singular catastrophe we imagine. Yet myth has a power of its own. For even if the numbers were smaller, the idea of a universal library, destroyed, still haunts us. The very lack of certainty, the absence of ruins, the silence of vanished texts, feeds the legend. The library becomes less a building and more a symbol of human ambition, human fragility, and the fleeting nature of knowledge. The dream of the library has never died. Renaissance scholars, rediscovering Greek and Roman texts, thought often of Alexandria and its promise. Enlightenment thinkers spoke of a new universal library of reason. In the digital age, with projects like the Internet Archive or Wikipedia, humanity again dreams of collecting all knowledge in one place. Each such effort is an echo of the Library of Alexandria. Even the modern Bibliotheca Alexandrina, built in Egypt in 2002, is a deliberate homage, a circular, modern library on the shores of the Mediterranean, its walls engraved with scripts from across the world. It stands as both a reminder and a hope that knowledge, though fragile, can be gathered again. Unlike other lost treasures in this book, the Library of Alexandria was not jewels or gold. It was words, ideas, visions. Its worth was incalculable, not because it glittered, but because it could change minds. In some ways, its loss is even greater than the loss of wealth. Gold can be mined again. Jewels can be cut again. But a lost idea, a lost text, may never return. How many stories, inventions, philosophies were snuffed out in those flames? How many brilliant voices silenced, not by death, but by the crumbling of papyrus? The story of the Library of Alexandria is not only about loss, it is about longing. Longing for a world where all knowledge can be preserved, where wisdom is safe from fire and war. Perhaps the library's greatest gift is the lesson it left us, that knowledge must be protected, shared, and passed on, that no treasure is greater than the ideas we keep alive. The Amber Room dazzled with light, the San Jose Galleon glittered with gold, the Templar hoard promised relics of faith. But the Library of Alexandria offered something even richer, a universe of thought. It is gone now, reduced to myth and ashes. Yet, in the modern world, Each library, each archive, each digital collection is a small resurrection of that dream, the dream that all wisdom might one day be within reach, not in one building, but in the collective memory of humanity. In that sense, perhaps the Library of Alexandria is not entirely lost. It lives on, not in papyrus scrolls, but in the burning desire to know, to remember, and to preserve. Among the great mysteries of ancient treasures, few are as awe-inspiring, or as hidden, as the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of a unified China. His burial place, shrouded in earth and legend for over 2,000 years, is one of the largest and most mysterious mausoleums ever built. Discovered in the 20th century, the surrounding terracotta army gave the world a glimpse of its scale. But the central tomb chamber itself remains untouched, sealed beneath a great mound, guarded by warnings of mercury rivers and ancient traps. What lies inside may be one of the most extraordinary treasures in history, waiting silently under the soil of Shanxi province. Qin Shi Huang, born Ying Zheng, rose to power in the 3rd century BCE. By the age of 38, he had conquered rival states and united China in 221 BCE, declaring himself the first emperor. His rule transformed China. He standardized weights, measures, coinage, and even the writing system. He began construction of the early Great Wall. He centralized power with iron authority, creating a legacy both feared and admired. But the emperor was obsessed with something more than power: immortality. He sought elixirs of life, sent expeditions to find mythical islands of the immortals, and surrounded himself with scholars who promised secrets of eternal existence. When he died in 210 BCE, his burial reflected that obsession. His tomb was not simply a grave, it was a cosmic palace designed to grant him rule even in death. Historical records tell us that construction of the emperor's tomb began as soon as he took the throne and continued for nearly 40 years. The historian Sima Qian, writing about a century later, describes it in detail. A vast underground palace, with ceilings decorated like the heavens, complete with stars. Models of palaces, towers, and entire kingdoms. Flowing rivers and seas of mercury, representing the world's waters. Crossbows rigged to fire at intruders. Over 700,000 workers were said to have labored on the project. When the emperor died, many artisans and concubines were sealed within, buried alive to protect the secrets of the tomb. The mausoleum became not just a burial site, but a miniature universe, a vision of the world recreated underground. In 1974, farmers digging a well near Xi'an stumbled upon broken clay figures. Archaeologists soon realized it was one of the greatest discoveries of the century, the terracotta army. Thousands of life-size soldiers, horses, and chariots stood in rows, each one unique. Crafted with incredible detail, no two faces are alike. They carried weapons, once sharp enough for war. These warriors were meant to guard the emperor in the afterlife. Today, more than 8,000 figures have been unearthed, but many more likely remain buried. The terracotta army is only the outer guard. The emperor's actual tomb lies under a nearby mound, still unopened. At the heart of the mausoleum lies the main burial chamber, but unlike the terracotta army pits, it has never been excavated. Why? Because of both danger and respect. Sima Qian's account describes rivers of mercury flowing through the chamber, representing the seas of the empire. Modern soil tests around the mound show abnormally high mercury levels, lending truth to the story. If the chamber is opened hastily, toxic mercury could escape. Ancient traps may still function, and excavation risks destroying delicate artifacts. Thus, the tomb remains sealed, a mystery waiting in the earth. Speculation runs wild about what treasures lie within Qin Shi Huang's tomb. Artifacts of power, jade, gold, bronze, and priceless relics symbolizing his rule, documents, records of his reign, perhaps texts that could shed light on lost knowledge, models of the empire, miniature palaces, bridges, and cities recreated underground. Celestial ceiling, a map of the stars, perhaps showing ancient Chinese astronomy. Mercury rivers, designed to flow eternally, representing oceans and lakes. Some suggest that if preserved, the tomb could hold technological marvels beyond what we imagine, evidence of lost sciences, or simply craftsmanship so advanced it would seem futuristic. The presence of mercury in the tomb is bitterly ironic. The emperor consumed mercury pills, believing they would grant eternal life. Instead, they likely poisoned him, hastening his death at age 49. Thus, the very substance he thought would make him live forever became his undoing, and the haunting heart of his burial. The rivers of mercury in his tomb symbolize his cosmic afterlife, but they also stand as a warning of his futile quest for immortality. Over centuries, stories have grown around the tomb, that it is cursed, and anyone who disturbs it will die. That vast treasures of jade, pearl, and gold lie inside, untouched. That magical secrets of the ancient world are sealed within, including lost inventions. That the terracotta army is only the beginning, and deeper layers of guardians exist underground. To this day, the burial mound looms like a silent mountain, its secrets hidden. Locals once avoided it, believing spirits guarded the emperor. Chinese authorities face a dilemma. Should they excavate the tomb, revealing its wonders but risking irreparable damage? Or should they leave it sealed, waiting until technology can protect its treasures? Past excavations of ancient sites have shown how easily delicate artifacts crumble when exposed to air. Paint fades, wood decays, metals corrode. Even the terracotta warriors, when first unearthed, lost much of their vivid paint within hours. For now, the official stance is preservation. The tomb will remain untouched until methods exist to excavate it safely. This decision preserves the mystery, but also feeds global fascination. Unlike the Amber Room or the Library of Alexandria, Qin Shi Huang's tomb is not lost. We know exactly where it is. What is lost is access. The treasure is there, hidden, waiting, like a locked vault we dare not open. In this way, it is the reverse of many mysteries. Instead of searching, we must simply wait. Why does the tomb fascinate us? Because it combines certainty and mystery. We know a vast treasure lies underground. We know it was built with unimaginable effort. We know it is filled with symbols of power. And yet, it is untouchable. The mausoleum reminds us of human ambition, of the lengths a ruler will go to command even death. It shows us the line between history and legend, where archaeology meets myth, and it leaves us with tantalizing hope that someday, when science allows, we may step into a chamber unseen for 2,000 years and behold wonders no eye has witnessed since the age of emperors. Qin Shi Huang sought to live forever. In one sense, he succeeded. His tomb, guarded by silent clay soldiers, is one of the most enduring legacies of ancient China. His empire, though it fell soon after his death, gave its name, Qin, pronounced Qin, to all of China. The treasures of his mausoleum remain hidden, but in their secrecy, they keep his legend alive. The mound near Xi'an is not just a burial site. It is a monument to ambition, power, and the eternal human desire to master time. Perhaps one day, carefully, the tomb will be opened. Perhaps we will see rivers of mercury, jeweled palaces, and maps of the heavens. Or perhaps it is best left sealed, a reminder that some mysteries must remain. Until then, the tomb of Qin Shi Huang stands as one of the world's greatest treasures, known yet unseen, buried yet alive in imagination. Few treasure legends blend mystery, mathematics, and gold quite like the story of the Beale ciphers. Unlike tales of sunken ships or lost cities, this is not about tracking down a place, but about unlocking a secret code, a cipher that supposedly leads to buried treasure. For nearly 2 centuries, fortune hunters have studied the Beale Papers, a small pamphlet first published in 1885 that claimed to reveal a buried fortune in Virginia. Some believe the story hides one of the greatest treasures in American history. Others dismiss it as a hoax. Either way, The Beale ciphers remain one of the most enduring puzzles in the world of lost riches. According to the pamphlet, the tale begins around 1820. A man named Thomas Jefferson Beale supposedly led a group of adventurers from Virginia westward to hunt buffalo. Along the way, in the region of modern-day Colorado or New Mexico, they stumbled upon a fortune, a mine rich in gold and silver. Over the next few years, they extracted a staggering hoard, thousands of pounds of precious metal, later converted into bars and coins, along with jewels purchased for easier transport. Fearing attack by bandits, Beale decided to bury the treasure back in his home state of Virginia, near the town of Bedford. He entrusted the secret to 3 coded messages, the Beale ciphers, and gave a locked box containing them to an innkeeper named Robert Morris. Beale promised to return within 10 years to retrieve the box and provide a key to the codes, but he never came back. Decades later, long after Beale had vanished, Morris opened the box. Inside, he found 3 ciphertexts, pages filled with numbers. Unable to solve them, he eventually gave them to a friend whose identity remains uncertain. This anonymous friend spent years trying to break the ciphers before finally publishing the story in a pamphlet titled The Beale Papers in 1885. The pamphlet included the full text of the 3 ciphers. Cipher number 1, supposedly describing the exact location of the treasure. Cipher number 2, describing the contents of the treasure, gold, silver, jewels. Cipher number 3, listing the names and relatives of the treasure's owners and heirs. Only cipher number 2 was ever solved. The anonymous friend eventually discovered that cipher number 2 could be solved using the United States Declaration of Independence as a key. The method was simple in concept. Each number in the cipher represented a word in the declaration. The first letter of that word spelled out the message. When decoded, cipher number 2 revealed a description of the treasure. I have deposited in the county of Bedford, about 4 miles from Beaufort's, in an excavation or vault, 6 feet below the surface, the following articles. The first deposit consisted of 1,014 pounds of gold, 3,812 pounds of silver, deposited November 1819. The second was made December 1821. The treasure consists of gold, silver, and jewels, all safely hidden and covered by stones. It was a thrilling message. If true, Beale's hoard would be worth hundreds of millions today. But ciphers number 1 and 3 remain unsolved. From the moment the pamphlet was published, treasure hunters flocked to Bedford County, Virginia. They dug up fields, hills, and caves, convinced that the fortune lay beneath their feet. Some claimed to find hints of disturbed earth, broken stones, or tunnels. Others argued that the site must be on Beaufort's farm, mentioned in the decoded text. But no treasure was ever uncovered. Even today, enthusiasts with metal detectors and ground-penetrating radar search the area. The lure of the Beale treasure is irresistible. Solve the ciphers, dig in the right spot, and become unimaginably wealthy. The heart of the mystery lies in the unsolved codes. Cipher number 1, which supposedly reveals the treasure's location, remains undeciphered despite centuries of effort. Cipher number 3, listing the heirs, also remains a puzzle. Are they solvable? Or are they meaningless strings of numbers created to lure the gullible? Some cryptographers argue that the unsolved ciphers show no signs of containing real language. Others believe that the key text, like the Declaration of Independence for Cipher 2, simply has not been found. Candidates for the missing key have ranged from the US Constitution to the Bible, but none have worked. Many historians dismiss the entire Beale story as a fabrication. They argue that the Beale Papers was likely written as a piece of fiction, designed either as entertainment or as a scam to sell pamphlets. Key doubts include: no records of Beale exist. No evidence has been found of Thomas Jefferson Beale's existence outside the pamphlet. Stylistic similarities. The writing style of the decoded message in Cipher No. 2 strongly resembles that of the pamphlet's anonymous author, suggesting it may have been invented. The treasure itself. The described hoard is enormous, yet no trace of it has ever been found despite 200 years of digging. To skeptics, the Beale ciphers are a clever 19th century hoax, nothing more. And yet, the Beale treasure continues to attract serious seekers. Why? Because cipher number 2 does work. It can be decoded with the Declaration of Independence. If it was simply a hoax, why create one functioning cipher? Believers argue that this proves there is substance to the tale. They suggest that cipher number 1 and number 3 are solvable, but only with the correct key text, still undiscovered. They also point to scattered reports of people finding mysterious items in Bedford County, old tunnels, stones carved with numbers, even the remains of possible vaults. None of these have been verified, but they keep hope alive. In the 20th and 21st centuries, computer analysis has been applied to the Beale ciphers. Programs have scanned the cipher texts for patterns, compared them against thousands of potential key texts, and tested statistical properties. So far, the results lean towards skepticism. Studies suggest that ciphers number 1 and number 3 lack the structure of real coded English. They may be random numbers or simply errors. Yet, some cryptanalysts caution against final judgment. Codes can be tricky, and without knowing the method Beale used, dismissing them outright may be premature. Part of the appeal of the Beale ciphers lies not in whether the treasure exists, but in the thrill of the hunt. For code breakers, it is an irresistible puzzle. For treasure hunters, it is the ultimate quest. For dreamers, it is the hope that unimaginable wealth lies buried in ordinary Virginia soil, waiting for the right person to unlock it. The Beale ciphers represent the intersection of logic and legend, of reason and imagination. The story of the Beale ciphers has inspired novels, films, documentaries, and countless internet forums. Cryptography enthusiasts continue to publish new theories, while treasure hunters sneak onto farms with shovels in hand. The legend has become part of American folklore, a uniquely American treasure story, blending frontier adventure, secret codes, and the possibility of sudden riches. So, what are the Beale ciphers? Perhaps they are a hoax, a clever 19th century invention to sell pamphlets. Perhaps they are a genuine treasure map still waiting for the right key. Or perhaps they are something in between. A half-true tale that has grown larger with retelling. What we know is this: the Beale ciphers have endured for nearly 200 years. No treasure has been found, no final solution reached, and that is their true power. For in the end, the Beale treasure may not be the gold or jewels buried in Virginia soil. The real treasure may be the mystery itself, the centuries of curiosity, the thrill of chasing secrets, the dreams they have sparked in countless minds. As long as the ciphers remain unsolved, the Beale treasure remains alive. Few treasure legends are as haunting, as stubbornly persistent, and as drenched in death as the tale of the lost Dutchman's mine. For over a century, the Superstition Mountains of Arizona have lured countless fortune hunters, each convinced that they might be the one to uncover the fabled gold mine. Yet the mountains have given up no treasure, only skeletons, abandoned camps, and whispered warnings. This story is not just about gold. It is about obsession, the lure of impossible riches, and the unforgiving desert that guards its secrets with ruthless silence. The Superstition Mountains rise jagged and red against the Arizona sky, east of Phoenix. Their crags, caves, and canyons cut strange shapes, and the desert around them can kill unprepared travelers with heat, thirst, or storms. The Apache people long held these mountains as sacred. They warned outsiders that the peaks were cursed, haunted by spirits, or inhabited by a thunder god who did not welcome intruders. Many early settlers dismissed these stories as superstition, yet the mountains proved dangerous in ways that seemed almost supernatural. It is here, amid scorched rock and hidden valleys, that the legend of the Lost Dutchman was born. The mine is named after Jacob Waltz, a German immigrant who came to the United States in the 19th century. Because German was often confused with Deutsch, Many Americans mistakenly called Germans Dutch. Thus, Waltz became the Dutchman. Waltz worked as a prospector and miner. In the late 1800s, he reportedly discovered a rich vein of gold somewhere in the Superstition Mountains. He mined small amounts and carried them into town to sell or trade, always careful not to reveal the source. According to stories, Waltz guarded the location of his mine fiercely, keeping it secret even from close friends. He died in 1891, leaving behind a few clues, some gold samples, and a legend that has never faded. The most famous part of the story comes from Waltz's final days. As he lay dying in Phoenix, cared for by a woman named Julia Thomas, Waltz supposedly described the location of the mine. Accounts differ, but Julia later claimed he spoke of landmarks, ridges, and a hidden entrance. He may have even sketched rough maps. After his death, Julia set out to find the mine herself, leading expeditions into the mountains. She never found it, but her efforts and her stories ignited the legend. Soon others poured into the superstitions, chasing the Dutchman's gold. Over time, countless clues have been attached to the legend. They include: the mine is hidden near a sharp pinnacle of rock. It lies close to a natural landmark shaped like a horse's head. A shadow at certain times of day points directly to its entrance. The gold lies in a canyon where a spring runs year-round. The entrance is sealed with stones to look like natural rock. Maps supposedly drawn by Waltz or passed down by others have surfaced over the years. They are usually cryptic, contradictory, or outright forgeries. But the core of the legend remains. Waltz found an astonishingly rich vein of gold, and he took its secret to the grave. One reason the legend refuses to die is that the gold samples Waltz left behind were real. Miners and jewelers who examined them declared them to be unusually pure and rich. This is not ordinary gold dust or flakes. The Dutchman's gold was so fine and heavy that it seemed almost impossible it could come from just a few small deposits. If Waltz truly had such samples, the mine must have been extraordinary. The Superstition Mountains are dangerous, but legend insists the mine itself is cursed. Dozens of people have died searching for it. Some were killed by the desert, dehydration, heat stroke, snake bites. Others died violently, murdered in disputes, ambushed by bandits, or caught in mysterious accidents. Newspapers in the late 19th and early 20th centuries reported grim stories of treasure hunters who went into the mountains and never returned. When their bodies were later found, the headlines always whispered of the Dutchman's curse. Over time, the death toll became part of the myth. The mine was not just hidden, it was protected. Among the many who sought the Dutchman's mine, a few stand out. Julia Thomas, Waltz's caregiver, who first launched expeditions to find the mine. Despite her supposed knowledge of his deathbed confession, she never succeeded. Adolph Ruth, a Washington, D.C. treasure hunter who vanished in the Superstitions in 1931. Months later, his skull was found with a bullet hole, fueling rumors of murder. His story became one of the most famous tragedies linked to the mine. The Peralta family legend. Some versions of the story claim the mine was originally worked by the Mexican Peralta family in the 1800s, who were later massacred by Apaches. Waltz supposedly discovered their abandoned mine. Modern adventurers. Even in the 21st century, people still risk their lives searching the superstitions. Every few years, a hiker or prospector vanishes, reviving old fears of the curse. Skeptics argue that the lost Dutchman's mine may never have existed. Perhaps Waltz's gold came from stolen ore, or from small placer deposits he exaggerated. The Superstition Mountains are volcanic in origin, not geologically suited to massive gold veins. Geologists insist the kind of treasure described simply doesn't fit the landscape. Others argue the mine was real, but has since been lost, covered by landslides, sealed by floods, or simply hidden too well. Whether real or not, the Dutchman's mine has become one of America's greatest treasure legends. It appears in novels, films, and television shows. Arizona holds festivals, museums, and attractions celebrating the story. The Superstition Mountains themselves have become synonymous with mystery, danger, and adventure. The mine represents the classic American dream: wealth lying just out of reach, waiting for someone brave or reckless enough to seize it. Beyond gold, the story carries lessons. It teaches about obsession, how the lure of riches can drive people to risk everything. It warns of respecting nature, for the desert is unforgiving to the unprepared. And it hints that some secrets are better left unsolved. For whether the Lost Dutchman's mine is real or not, it has claimed more treasure hunters than it has ever enriched. In the end, the Lost Dutchman's mine is less about gold and more about the human spirit. It is about the hope that we can still discover something miraculous, hidden in plain sight. It is about the willingness to chase dreams, even when logic warns against it. And it is about the mystery of the Superstition Mountains, a place where legends thrive and reality blurs. Perhaps there is no mine. Perhaps Jacob Waltz's gold came from some other source. Or perhaps, just perhaps, somewhere deep in the desert, beneath a sun-bleached ridge, a sealed entrance still waits, holding a fortune untold. Until the day the truth is uncovered, the Lost Dutchman's mine will remain what it has always been, a story of riches that swallowed men whole, leaving only bones and dreams in the sand. Among the many legends of ancient treasure, few shine as brightly as the story of King Solomon's mines. The name alone conjures visions of golden caverns, shimmering jewels, and endless wealth hidden beneath the earth. For centuries, explorers, archaeologists, and dreamers have searched for these legendary mines, convinced that they hold the key to one of history's greatest fortunes. But where did this legend come from? Were the mines real, or are they simply a myth that grew larger with each retelling? To understand the story, we must look at the life and reign of Solomon, the ancient king of Israel, and at the centuries of mystery that followed. Solomon, son of King David, ruled Israel in the 10th century BCE. His reign, as described in the Hebrew Bible, was a time of peace and prosperity. He was renowned for his wisdom, his grand building projects, and above all, his wealth. The Bible describes him as a ruler of immense riches. He built the magnificent Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem, covered in gold. He owned fleets of ships that brought treasures from distant lands. He collected gifts from foreign rulers, who marveled at his wisdom. His throne was said to be of ivory, overlaid with gold, with lions standing guard. Gold flowed into his kingdom in such abundance that silver was said to be as common as stones in Jerusalem. But where did all this wealth come from? Some say the answer lies in the mines of Solomon. Vast sources of gold and copper hidden deep in the deserts and mountains. The Bible does not directly mention Solomon's mines, but it does describe his sources of wealth. In the Book of Kings, it is written that Solomon sent fleets of ships to a place called Ophir, which returned with gold, silver, ivory, and exotic goods. The gold of Ophir became legendary, its location a mystery that scholars still debate. Some passages also suggest that Solomon controlled mining operations in Edom, a region south of the Dead Sea, rich in copper deposits. Copper, though less glamorous than gold, was highly valuable in the ancient world for weapons and tools. These references formed the seed of the legend. Over centuries, storytellers expanded them into the idea of fabulous mines, filled with unimaginable riches, hidden somewhere in the deserts of the Middle East or Africa. In medieval times, the story of Solomon's mines spread across Europe and the Islamic world. Explorers and geographers speculated about their location. Some said they lay in Ethiopia, connected to the Queen of Sheba, who visited Solomon bearing gifts. Others placed them in southern Arabia, where frankincense and gold were traded. Still others believed they were in the deserts of Jordan, where ruins of ancient copper smelters could be found. By the 19th century, the legend exploded in popular culture. Writers, fascinated by biblical mysteries, fueled the idea that Solomon's lost mines were real, just waiting to be rediscovered. The most famous of these was H. Rider Haggard's 1885 novel, King Solomon's Mines. The adventure tale, set in Africa, told of explorers who discovered a hidden kingdom with vast treasures. Though fictional, the book captured the imagination of readers worldwide, cementing the idea that Solomon's wealth came from secret, underground caverns. In the 20th and 21st centuries, archaeologists began to search for real evidence of mining during Solomon's time. Their focus turned to the deserts of southern Jordan and Israel, where traces of ancient copper production had been found. One of the most famous sites is Timna Valley, near the Red Sea. Here, vast networks of copper mines and smelting camps stretch across the desert. For years, scholars debated whether they dated to Solomon's reign or to later periods. Recent studies, including radiocarbon dating, suggest that large-scale copper production indeed took place in the 10th century BCE, around Solomon's time. Some scholars now argue that Timna, or nearby Edomite territories, could have been part of Solomon's mining network. While these were copper mines, not gold, they still would have generated enormous wealth for a ruler who controlled them. The other great mystery tied to Solomon's wealth is Ophir, the fabled source of his gold. Where was Ophir? Theories abound. Southern Arabia, modern Yemen, or Oman, rich in trade and incense. East Africa, Somalia or Ethiopia, linked to long-distance sea trade. India. Some suggest ships sailed as far as India, bringing gold and exotic animals. Zimbabwe. In the 19th century, explorers speculated that the ruins of Great Zimbabwe, a vast stone city in southern Africa, were linked to Solomon's mines. No definitive evidence has been found, but the mystery of Ophir continues to captivate explorers. The legend of Solomon's mines is also tied to the famous story of the Queen of Sheba, who visited Jerusalem bearing rich gifts of gold, spices, and precious stones. Some traditions place Sheba in Ethiopia or Yemen, lands historically connected by trade. Ethiopian tradition even claims that the Queen of Sheba and Solomon had a son, Menelik, who became the ancestor of Ethiopia's emperors. According to these legends, treasures of Solomon, including the Ark of the Covenant, were brought to Ethiopia. Thus, the search for Solomon's mines is often intertwined with the romance of Sheba, adding layers of intrigue to the tale. From the 19th century onward, explorers chased the dream of Solomon's mines. Some travelled through the deserts of Jordan, convinced they would find golden caverns. Others ventured into Africa, inspired by Haggard's novel, searching for ruins they believed linked to biblical wealth. Archaeological digs uncovered evidence of ancient mining and trade, but never the glittering vaults of gold described in legend. Still, the idea of hidden mines captured the imagination, blending history, myth, and adventure. Why has the legend endured? Because Solomon's mines are more than just physical treasure. They are a symbol of ultimate wealth and mystery. To believers, they represent the glory of Solomon's reign, proof of biblical truth. To explorers, they are the ultimate prize, waiting to be uncovered. To dreamers, they are a metaphor for hidden riches, whether material or spiritual, that lie just beyond reach. The story combines history, faith, and fantasy in a way that makes it timeless. So, did Solomon's mines exist? The answer lies somewhere between fact and legend. Archaeology shows that mining did take place in the 10th century BCE in regions Solomon likely influenced. The Bible describes wealth flowing into his kingdom, though it may have come from trade as much as from mining. The idea of vast, secret gold mines may be an exaggeration, born of later imagination. The real mines of Solomon may have been copper works in Timna and Edom, combined with the mysterious gold of Ophir, brought by ships from distant lands. Whether real or imagined, Solomon's mines have left an enormous legacy. They inspired literature, films, and countless treasure hunts. They connected the histories of Israel, Arabia, and Africa in a web of trade and myth, and they remind us that behind every legend lies a kernel of truth, mines that did exist, wealth that did flow, and a king whose name still gleams in memory. The lost mines of Solomon may never be found, at least not as the glittering caverns of gold described in legend. But the story endures because it speaks to something deeper than treasure, the human desire for discovery, for hidden wealth, for mystery itself. Solomon's true treasure may not lie underground, but in the wisdom for which he was most famous. In the Bible, when God offered Solomon anything, he chose not wealth, but wisdom. Ironically, that wisdom brought him both prosperity and legend. So perhaps the real lesson of the mines is this: riches may fade, but stories, wisdom, and dreams endure far longer than gold. And thus, the mines of Solomon, whether in Jordan, Arabia, Africa, or simply in imagination, remain one of history's greatest treasures, hidden not just in the earth, but in the human heart. Few figures in history cast a shadow as vast as Genghis Khan. Born as Temujin on the windswept steppes of Mongolia in the late 12th century, he rose from hardship and exile to forge the largest contiguous empire the world has ever seen. His armies thundered across Asia and Europe, reshaping civilizations, toppling kingdoms, and leaving behind a legacy of both terror and brilliance. And yet, despite his towering presence in history, the final resting place of Genghis Khan, the man who was once master of millions, remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of archaeology. Where is the grave of the world conqueror? Was it hidden on purpose? And why, for 800 years, has it never been found? Genghis Khan was not merely a warrior, he was a visionary leader. He united fractious Mongol tribes under a single banner, imposed a code of laws, and established a system of communication and governance that allowed his empire to thrive. His military campaigns stretched from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea, engulfing China, Persia, and parts of Eastern Europe. But even the mightiest rulers must face mortality. In 1227, while campaigning against the Western Xia dynasty in northwestern China, Genghis Khan died. The cause of his death remains debated. Some sources say he fell from his horse, others claim he succumbed to illness, while still others whisper of wounds suffered in battle. What happened next has been cloaked in mystery for centuries. His body was carried back to Mongolia, but the burial site was kept secret. Tradition demanded that his grave remain hidden, untouched by enemies, looters, or even his own descendants. According to Mongol tradition and later chronicles, Genghis Khan's funeral was extraordinary, not for its grandeur, but for its secrecy. Several stories have been passed down through generations. The guarded procession. His body was said to have been carried home by loyal soldiers. To keep the location secret, they killed anyone who crossed their path, ensuring no witnesses could later reveal the site. The hidden burial. Once the tomb was dug, the soldiers themselves were killed, sealing the secret forever. In some versions, horses trampled over the burial mound until no trace remained. The river legend. Another account suggests that Genghis Khan was buried beneath a diverted river, its waters returning to flow over his grave, concealing it for eternity. The mountain resting place. Mongol tradition also holds that he was buried in or near Burkhan Khaldun, a sacred mountain in northern Mongolia that was central to his early life. Each version emphasizes one thing: his grave was never meant to be found. Why hide the tomb of such a great conqueror? Several reasons stand out. Tradition of the steppes. Steppe nomads often practice secret burials, believing graves should not be disturbed. Fear of desecration. Genghis Khan made countless enemies. A visible tomb might have invited destruction or looting. Spiritual belief. For the Mongols, the land itself was sacred. Genghis may have wished to return to the earth quietly, without monuments. Unlike the pyramids of Egypt or the mausoleums of China, the Mongol idea of honor lay in simplicity, secrecy, and the endurance of memory rather than stone. For centuries, Genghis Khan's tomb remained hidden, known only through legend. But in the modern era, archaeologists, adventurers, and treasure hunters began to search for it. The stakes were high, not only for history, but for national pride. Finding the tomb could mean uncovering priceless artifacts, weapons, armor, gold, and treasures gathered from across Asia. More importantly, it would offer insights into the life and death of one of history's greatest rulers. The search has focused on several possible locations. Sunken. Many believe the sacred mountain is the most likely site. Even today, Mongols revere it, making expeditions difficult. The Orkhan Valley. Once the heart of the Mongol Empire, this area is another contender. Delgakan Mountain and Khenti Province. Archaeological surveys have revealed burial sites, but none yet linked to Genghis himself. Despite modern technology, satellite imagery, ground-penetrating radar and drones, the tomb has never been found. Why has the tomb remained hidden for nearly 800 years? Several challenges explain the mystery. Mongolian reverence. Many Mongols consider the search disrespectful. Disturbing Genghis Khan's grave would be seen as sacrilege. Vast and remote terrain. The Mongolian steppes are immense, with few markers. Even with modern tools, pinpointing one burial is daunting. Deliberate concealment. If legends of rivers, secret killings, or hidden valleys are true, the grave was designed never to be found. Political sensitivity. Different governments, Mongolia, China, Russia, have stakes in the legacy of Genghis Khan, making international research complex. The result, despite centuries of searching, the tomb remains a mystery. Still, discoveries have provided hints. In the 20th century, Soviet and Mongolian teams studied the Khenti Mountains, declaring the area off-limits and protecting it as a military zone. Some speculate this was to guard the tomb from looters. More recently, in 2001, a Japanese-Mongolian team announced they had found a large burial site in Khenti Province. But political pressures halted excavation, and no proof emerged. In 2015, satellite surveys identified unusual mounds and ruins in northern Mongolia. But again, no confirmation followed. To this day, not a single artifact has been conclusively tied to Genghis Khan's burial. One of the most intriguing stories is that of the so-called Forbidden Zone in the Khenti Mountains. Local Mongols believe this valley contains the tomb, guarded by spirits and protected by taboo. The area is remote, sparsely inhabited, and fiercely respected. Hunters and herders avoid it. Foreign expeditions attempting to enter have met resistance, both from locals and from authorities. In this way, the secrecy of Genghis Khan's tomb is not only ancient, but actively preserved by his descendants' culture. What would the tomb contain if it were found? Here, the debate divides historians. The treasure theory. Some believe Genghis Khan was buried with enormous riches, spoils of conquest, weapons, gold, and exotic artifacts gathered from across Eurasia. If true, it could be one of the greatest archaeological finds in history. The simplicity theory. Others argue he was buried according to Mongol custom, in a simple grave, with few possessions, returning to the earth as humbly as he was born. This second view fits Mongol values, but the possibility of lost treasures continues to drive speculation. Why does the mystery endure? Because Genghis Khan is more than a historical figure. He is a legend. His name inspires awe, fear, and curiosity. Finding his tomb would not only be an archaeological triumph, but also a symbolic act, uncovering the final secret of a man who changed the world. The story also appeals to the timeless human love of hidden treasures. Like the tomb of Alexander the Great or the Amber Room, Genghis Khan's grave represents the allure of what is just out of reach, something tantalizingly close, yet forever concealed. It is important to note that many Mongolians prefer the tomb remain hidden. To them, Genghis Khan is not a curiosity, but a sacred ancestor, the founder of their nation. Disturbing his rest would dishonor him. Some argue that the greatest respect we can show is to leave the grave untouched, allowing mystery to endure. Others, however, believe knowledge and history should be uncovered for all humanity. This tension between reverence and curiosity may ensure the tomb remains unfound for generations. The tomb of Genghis Khan is perhaps the most perfect treasure mystery of all. It combines history, legend, and secrecy. It tempts us with visions of wealth, yet may contain nothing but simplicity. It lies hidden in plain sight, in the vast landscapes he once called home. Perhaps someday archaeologists will uncover the grave, revealing the truth of how the world's greatest conqueror was laid to rest. Or perhaps the secret will endure forever, protected by the land and the people who revere him. Either way, the tomb of Genghis Khan reminds us that not all treasures are meant to be found. Some live best in mystery, as part of the eternal story of human imagination. Among the world's lost treasures, few shimmer with the same blend of history, religion, and piracy as the treasure of Lima. This is not a legend born from myth alone, like Cibola or El Dorado. No, this tale begins with real ships, real gold, and a very real fortune entrusted to men who would betray it. It is the story of a colonial empire in decline, of priests fearing for their sacred relics, of pirates chasing plunder, and of one of the greatest treasure hunts that continues to this day. Somewhere, perhaps buried on a remote island in the Pacific, lies a hoard so vast that it has been valued at hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. And yet, like many of the world's most tantalizing riches, it has never been found. The story begins in the early 19th century. For nearly 300 years, Peru had been the jewel of Spain's American colonies. From its silver mines at Potosi to the gold flowing through Lima, wealth poured across the Atlantic, enriching the Spanish crown. The Catholic Church also grew wealthy. Cathedrals in Lima and Cusco glittered with golden chalices, jeweled crosses, and relics encrusted with gems. The Spanish priests claimed this treasure glorified God, but to many, it was also a symbol of colonial oppression. By the early 1820s, revolution was sweeping South America. Leaders like Simón Bolívar and José de San Martín were driving the Spanish out. In Peru, rebellion threatened Lima itself. The Spanish viceroy, fearing that the capital would fall to the rebels, made a fateful decision. The treasure of the Lima Cathedral must be removed, hidden somewhere safe, until Spain regained control. What exactly was this treasure? Contemporary accounts describe it in staggering terms. It included a life-size statue of the Virgin Mary, crafted entirely of gold and encrusted with diamonds, golden chalices, monstrances, and reliquaries, bejeweled candlesticks, crosses, and altars, chests filled with coins, bars of silver, and ingots of gold, emeralds and other precious stones from Colombia and beyond. Some estimates suggest the treasure weighed over 11 tons. Its value in today's money has been placed at $200 million to more than $1 billion. This was no ordinary treasure. It was one of the greatest hoards ever assembled in the New World. The Viceroy entrusted this immense fortune to an English sea captain named William Thompson. Thompson commanded the brig Mary Dear, and he was instructed to sail the treasure to Mexico, where it would be guarded until Spain reasserted its power. It was a dangerous mission. Pirates, privateers, and rebel navies prowled the seas, but Thompson was considered reliable, at least on the surface. As soon as the treasure was loaded, temptation overcame loyalty. Thompson and his crew made a fateful choice. Instead of delivering the treasure, they killed the Spanish officers aboard and sailed away with the hoard. The Mary Dear could not return to England openly, for Spanish and rebel ships alike would hunt it. So Thompson chose a desperate plan. He sailed to the Cocos Islands, Isla del Coco, a remote volcanic island off the coast of modern Costa Rica. There, legend says, the treasure was unloaded and buried in a secret location. The crew, perhaps fearing betrayal, may have scattered the hoard across several hidden caches. With the treasure hidden, Thompson hoped to return later to recover it. But fate intervened. The Mary Dear was soon captured by Spanish forces. Thompson and his crew were put on trial for piracy and murder. Most of the men were executed, but Thompson, under torture, offered a bargain: his life in exchange for guiding the Spaniards to the hidden treasure. A Spanish ship took him back to Cocos Island, along with a small guard. But once ashore, Thompson escaped into the jungle. Some versions of the story claim he lived out his days there, never retrieving the treasure. Others say he eventually slipped away, taking the secret of its location to his grave. Either way, the hoard was never recovered. The treasure of Lima had vanished into legend. From that day forward, countless adventurers, explorers, and dreamers have hunted for the treasure of Lima. The Cocos Islands, in particular, became the center of attention. In the 19th and 20th centuries, expeditions arrived with maps, metal detectors, and shovels. Among the most famous treasure hunters was August Gisler, a German adventurer who lived on Cocos Island for nearly 20 years. He dug tunnels across the island, but found nothing of value. Others, including wealthy businessmen and even governments, tried their luck. None succeeded. Some began to suspect that Thompson never buried the treasure at Cocos at all, but instead hid it on the mainland, perhaps in Panama, Costa Rica, or even a Caribbean island. The uncertainty only deepened the mystery. Why has the legend stuck so firmly to Cocos Island? Partly because of its isolation and beauty. Cocos is a lush, jungle-covered island with cliffs, waterfalls, and hidden coves. It is remote, lying 300 miles off Costa Rica's coast, accessible only by boat. With its caves and thick vegetation, it is the perfect setting for a treasure tale. It has also been linked to other pirate legends. The infamous buccaneers Edward Davis and Benito Benito are said to have buried loot there as well. Over time, the island became almost synonymous with buried treasure. Even today, despite being a national park and a UNESCO World Heritage Site, Cocos Island draws treasure hunters who dream of striking it rich. Adding to the legend are the countless maps, charts, and supposed clues that have surfaced over the years. Some claim Thompson left behind a map before his death. Others insist later pirates stumbled upon his hoard and reburied it elsewhere. The problem is that most of these maps are vague, contradictory, or outright forgeries. The jungle of Cocos is also unforgiving. Heavy rains, landslides, and thick vegetation can easily bury or destroy human traces. Even if the treasure was once there, centuries of erosion could have hidden it deeper still. Is the treasure of Lima real? Or is it an exaggerated tale? Skeptics argue that the story was inflated by rumor. Perhaps some treasure was indeed lost, but not on the scale described. They note that no reliable inventory survives, and many accounts come from second-hand sources. Believers counter that the historical context is sound. Lima was indeed rich, Spain was retreating, and transporting treasure was common. Thompson's betrayal is mentioned in several records. To them, the treasure of Lima is not a myth, but a fact, still waiting to be found. In recent decades, modern technology has been employed in the search. Ground-penetrating radar, aerial surveys, and underwater exploration have all been tried on Cocos Island. Despite all this, nothing definitive has been uncovered. Costa Rica, wary of looting, restricts treasure hunting activities. Yet stories persist of locals finding coins, relics, or odd artifacts, enough to keep the legend alive. Some researchers now suspect the treasure may not be on Cocos at all, but rather on nearby islands or hidden inland on the Central American coast. Why does the treasure of Lima captivate us so? Because it contains every ingredient of a perfect treasure legend: historical reality, a real rebellion, real priests, and real colonial wealth, betrayal, a trusted captain who turned pirate, mystery, a hoard hidden and never recovered. Romance, a remote island, lush with danger and beauty. It is a tale that tempts us to believe that even now, beneath the roots of a jungle tree, or in a cave sealed by time, a mountain of gold waits to be uncovered. The treasure of Lima may never be found. Perhaps it was buried so well that nature reclaimed it. Perhaps Thompson retrieved it in secret. Perhaps it never existed in the size claimed. And yet, like the Amber Room or Solomon's Mines, it has already achieved immortality, not as gold or silver, but as legend. The story lives on in books, films, and the minds of treasure hunters. If the treasure does lie waiting, then it remains one of the greatest fortunes ever hidden. If not, then the true treasure is the story itself, glittering across centuries, richer than any chest of coins. For sometimes the greatest treasures are not those that are found, but those that are forever sought. When people hear the words sunken treasure, the image that often comes to mind is a Spanish galleon, its wooden hull rotting beneath the waves, its cargo holds brimming with silver coins, gold bars. This chapter takes us back to the age when the Caribbean was the highway of empires, when Spain's colonial wealth flowed in fleets across the Atlantic, and when storms, pirates, and bad luck could send a fortune to the ocean floor in a single night. The San Miguel is remembered as one of the richest galleons ever to sink, and though centuries have passed, her treasure may still lie undiscovered. By the early 16th century, Spain had established a system for transporting the vast riches of its colonies back to Europe. Gold and silver from Mexico, emeralds from Colombia, pearls from Venezuela, and sugar from the Caribbean poured into Spanish ports. To protect this wealth, Spain organized annual treasure fleets, known as the flotas. Dozens of ships would gather in Havana or Cartagena, then sail together across the Atlantic under the protection of armed galleons. But the Caribbean was perilous. Hurricanes raged across its waters. Privateers and pirates stalked the sea lanes. A single misfortune could destroy an entire fleet. And that is exactly what happened in 1551, when the San Miguel met her fate. The San Miguel was part of a treasure fleet sailing from the Caribbean back to Spain in the summer of 1551. She was no ordinary ship. She was one of the primary treasure galleons, built strong and wide to carry immense cargo. Her holds contained tons of silver ingots, gold coins, and priceless gems from South America. Historical records suggest that her treasure was valued in the tens of millions, making her one of the richest ships ever to leave the New World. The fleet left Havana under fair skies, but fate would not grant them safe passage. In those days, sailors had no warning of storms. Hurricanes struck without mercy. Somewhere in the Western Caribbean, the fleet encountered one of these tempests. The winds rose, the seas churned, and the fleet was scattered. Some ships limped back to port, others were driven far off course, and at least one, the San Miguel, was lost completely. Witnesses later reported that the San Miguel had gone down near the coast of Hispaniola, modern-day Dominican Republic. Some survivors may have made it to shore, but the treasure itself sank into the sea. The loss was catastrophic. Spain depended heavily on its colonial riches to finance wars in Europe. The disappearance of the San Miguel's treasure sent shockwaves across the empire. For weeks, divers were sent to search the waters where the ship had gone down. But salvage technology in the 16th century was primitive. Without modern diving suits or submarines, treasure hunters could only grope blindly in shallow waters. The San Miguel lay beyond their reach. Her cargo was gone, swallowed by the Caribbean. From the moment the San Miguel was lost, the dream of recovering her riches began. For centuries, rumors persisted of silver coins washing ashore on Caribbean beaches, or of fishermen pulling up golden artifacts in their nets. In the 17th century, new diving bells allowed limited salvage, but they were clumsy and dangerous. Even then, the exact location of the wreck was uncertain. Some claimed it lay off Hispaniola. Others argued for Puerto Rico or the Bahamas. By the 20th century, the San Miguel had become one of the most legendary ghost galleons of the Spanish treasure fleets. Modern explorers with sonar and submersibles began to scour the Caribbean in hopes of finding her. The 20th century saw a wave of professional treasure hunters chasing lost Spanish fleets. Men like Mel Fisher, who famously discovered the Nuestra Señora de Atocha off Florida, proved that riches still lay waiting beneath the sea. The San Miguel was high on many explorers' lists. Maps, archival documents, and old records were studied. Expeditions searched the Dominican coast, the Mona Passage between Puerto Rico and Hispaniola, and even far-off cays in the Bahamas. Some claimed success. Coins and relics were found in waters off the Dominican Republic. But no verified discovery of the San Miguel's main wreck has ever been confirmed. Why has the San Miguel never been found? Several reasons make the search difficult. Shifting sands. The Caribbean seabed changes constantly. Storms and currents bury wrecks under layers of sand, making them invisible to sonar. Multiple losses. In 1551, more than one ship may have sunk. Records are unclear, and treasure hunters may have mistaken artifacts from other wrecks for those of the San Miguel. Deep waters. If the San Miguel sank beyond the shallow reef shelf, she may rest in deep waters unreachable until recent decades. Human secrecy. Some suggest that successful finds have been deliberately hidden, either to avoid government claims or to keep rivals at bay. Like all great treasure stories, the San Miguel has accumulated its share of legends. Some say her hold carried not just silver and gold, but also the crown jewels of a Spanish noble being transported back to Europe. Others whisper of rare Incan artifacts, idols of gold, ceremonial masks, and emerald-encrusted headdresses, meant as tribute to the Spanish king. The value of the treasure has been estimated at hundreds of millions, perhaps even more if the rarer artifacts exist. For treasure hunters, the San Miguel represents not just wealth, but glory, the chance to make one of the greatest discoveries in maritime history. The search for Spanish treasure galleons has often been entangled with politics. The Caribbean nations, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Cuba, claim rights to wrecks in their territorial waters. Spain itself insists that all galleons remain its property as cultural heritage. This means that even if the San Miguel were found, disputes would erupt over who truly owns her cargo. In fact, several court battles have already been fought over other wrecks, where treasure recovered had to be handed over to Spain or divided with governments. The San Miguel, then, is not just a hunt for treasure. It is a stage for international conflict. The story of the San Miguel cannot be separated from the broader saga of Spain's treasure fleets. Between the 16th and 18th centuries, dozens of these fleets were lost to storms and pirates. The wrecks are scattered across the Caribbean and the Florida Keys. Some, like the Atocha, have been discovered and salvaged, yielding coins, jewels, and artifacts worth hundreds of millions. Others, like the San Miguel, remain undiscovered, taunting divers with the promise of riches. Each discovery tells a story, not just of wealth, but of the men who risked their lives to transport it, and of the empires built on such fragile fortunes. It is easy to focus on the gold and silver, but behind the San Miguel's treasure lies human drama. Imagine the sailors aboard her on that fateful night. The fear as the hurricane tore through their rigging, the prayers whispered as waves rose higher, the desperate struggle to keep the ship afloat. Some may have clutched small personal treasures, a crucifix, a ring, a letter from home, as they went into the sea. Others may have survived, washed ashore with nothing but the clothes on their backs. For them, the San Miguel was not a legend, but a moment of terror and loss. The San Miguel remains unfound, and perhaps that is why she holds our imagination. If she were discovered tomorrow, her treasure catalogued and divided, the legend would end. But as long as she lies hidden, she remains a symbol of the unknown, a secret waiting in the dark waters of the Caribbean. The search for her speaks to something deeper than gold, humanity's hunger for discovery, adventure, and the hope that the past still holds treasures for us to uncover. The San Miguel may rest silently beneath the waves, her timbers long rotted, her silver ingots covered in coral. Perhaps one day sonar will ping against her hull, or a diver's light will glint off her treasure. Or perhaps she will remain hidden forever, her story passed down only in whispers of fortune and loss. But whether found or not, the San Miguel tells us a truth, that the ocean is both a graveyard and a vault. It keeps its secrets well, and it reminds us that the dreams of men, whether kings, sailors, or treasure hunters, are fragile things, as easily broken as a galleon in a storm. The San Miguel's treasure may yet be the prize of a future generation. For now, she remains one of the greatest mysteries of the Caribbean, a fortune lost to time, waiting to be discovered. We live in an age of satellites, smartphones, and instant answers. Yet the ocean resists. It refuses to be mapped entirely, refuses to be named completely. It holds on to its shadows. That endurance is a gift. It means there will always be mysteries to chase, always stories to tell. Perhaps the true enduring mystery of the deep is not in what it hides, but in what it gives us. The eternal reminder that we do not know everything, and that is a beautiful thing. As we close this long voyage through unexplained deep-sea mysteries, let us remember the sea not as an enemy or a puzzle to be solved, but as a companion on humanity's journey. It has been here before us. It will be here after us. It endures. And in its endurance, it asks only that we respect it, listen to its whispers, and keep alive the stories that make us look out at the horizon and wonder what lies beneath. So when you next hear the crash of waves or see the calm shimmer of a morning tide, remember, beneath that surface stretches a realm older, deeper, and stranger than you can imagine. A realm that endures, a realm that watches, a realm that perhaps is still waiting to reveal its greatest secrets. As we surface from this long descent into the deep, let us take a quiet moment to reflect. The ocean, vast and unfathomable, has shown us shadows and whispers, strange sounds, vanishing vessels, ghostly lights, and forgotten ruins. Each mystery we explored was like a ripple across dark waters, hinting at truths hidden far below. The deep sea humbles us. Even with satellites circling the skies, rovers crawling across Mars, and telescopes peering into the edges of the universe, most of our own ocean floor remains unseen, untouched, unmapped. It reminds us that mystery is not always out there in the cosmos. It is right here on Earth, beneath the waves we think we know so well. Perhaps that is why the deep sea calls to us. Its darkness is not empty, but alive with secrets. Some may one day be solved. The origin of the bloop, the nature of the Baltic anomaly, the true shape of Yonaguni's monument. Others may remain forever hidden, preserved in silence by the crushing pressure and eternal night. And maybe that is how it should be. For mystery fuels wonder, and wonder keeps us searching. Without unanswered questions, the journey itself would lose its magic. So, as you let these stories settle in your mind, picture the quiet of the abyss, an endless midnight where strange creatures glow like living stars, where forgotten civilizations sleep beneath shifting sands, and where the unknown still guards its secrets. Rest easy now. The deep keeps its watch, and the mysteries remain. They are not lost. They are simply waiting.